Before I go further into the topic and even bring in the experts, I would like to invite Dr. Rainer Seider. He's one of the key initiators of Asia Berlin, and he's from the Senate of Berlin, of course. And please, Rainer, it would be wonderful if you could share a few words with us on the Asia Berlin network and also set a context to the session. So yeah, I give the floor to you.
So thank you very much, Amrita, for the opportunity to speak to this great and interesting audience today. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Senate, the government of Berlin, to this first event, Asia Berlin event in 2021. Asia Berlin Connecting Startup Ecosystems is the motto, the vision of our activities here. And the idea behind is connecting Berlin to the very innovative and fast-growing markets and regions in Asia. So having a profit for Berlin startup ecosystem and startups, especially to join forces with Asia. And within our interest in Asia, India is among the top priority countries, or maybe the top priority countries, and the only country where we have a special person employed, Amrita, and I'm very happy that you're working for Asia Berlin out of Bangalore, joining forces with us here and throughout the year with the Asia Berlin activities. So AI is a very important topic today for us, and generally AI is very important for any startup ecosystem because it fuels the spirit and the ideas of startups in the different countries and hubs worldwide. AI India is very interesting for us from a Berlin perspective because of course, big data is very important for AI, and India stands for big data, and it's also for its talents, which are very much known in Berlin, and also for the big AI companies in India we are connected to. From an Indian perspective, Berlin is also very interesting because for AI is one of the main clusters for Berlin startup ecosystem, and we have more than 100 companies specialized on AI here in Berlin. So I think it would be a fruitful partnership. And I think the people on the panel are very well representing the different forms and interests in AI from the different ecosystems in Germany and in India. So I think it's a very fruitful topic today, and it will be, I'm very curious on a fruitful discussion on that. But I'm also here, of course, on advertising or other Asia Berlin activities. So we have the events now. We don't have planned any delegation trips this year, unless they are virtual, but maybe in the last quarter of the year, we have also delegation trips. But what we are very proud to announce already now is the Asia Berlin Summit, which will take place from 4 to 10 October, and you will find further information at our website, asia.berlin, so very easy to find. And you find it here also on the screen. So that will be the highlight of the year, where everything is condensated and concentrated and focused what we are doing together with Asia throughout the year. So please save the date 4 to 10 October and come over to Berlin if you are not yet here. So it will be a physical event, so hopefully with lots of Asians traveling in from Asia and not only from the local ecosystem. And of course, if you are interested in what we're doing with India on AI, on other topics with other Asian countries, please connect us at asia.berlin or visit me at my LinkedIn profile. You will easily find it if you're looking for it. So I wish you a very fruitful conversation, very interesting results. I'm very optimistic, and I will join the event. So if you have any questions also throughout the event, you may join by chat. So I will be here with you and listening, and very interested in the coming out of today's event. So thank you very much, Amrita, and wishing you all a good discussion. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rainer. Thank you for establishing Asia Berlin as a network, and definitely also highlighting why we have the topic here today, especially the context of India and Germany, also in a bilateral sense. So now moving into the topic, and before I invite the speakers, I just wanted to share a few thoughts here. Of course, the past few years have shown us multiple cases of applying AI to real-time cases through, of course, remarkable innovations, of which some we would be seeing here today by the speakers who are now on the screen. And today, one has to really struggle to think of a field that is not really influenced by AI. And of course, like Rainer mentioned, India and Germany have identified AI as one of the key areas of collaboration. And according to Bertelsmann's Stiftung's research on their paper, The Role of Indian Data on European AI, the rough estimates of Indo-German AI-related economy is between 460 to 920 million euros, just based on the ICT-enabled services. And especially post November 2019, when the fifth intergovernmental consultations happened between Germany and India, AI has, of course, been a very strong leading topic for both countries to find synergies and benefit from each other's capabilities. So today, the main objective of the session is to explore how India and Germany can be partners in the global AI landscape. How can they complement and leverage each other's capabilities? And not just this, I know we just have a short span of little over an hour, but we also want to delve a little bit more into the complex aspects of data, since data is a very vital input for AI, and the need for data collaboration and the relevance of it in the realm of startups. So going by the cross-border spirit of Asia Berlin, we have today experts joining in both from the German and Indian ecosystems to share their experience in the ever-evolving field of AI. So I would say let's get high on AI in the spirit of learning, curiosity, and collaboration. And I would like to now, without much further ado, invite the first speaker, Mr. Manish Singhal from Pi Ventures. Manish, if you could just unmute yourself, would be wonderful.
Sure. Thank you, Amrita, for having me. Uh, just to kind of get the ball rolling, brief introduction. I've been in the tech industry for the last 3 decades. Now run a fund called Pi Ventures. We are actually, we support startups in disruptive AI, and we do a little bit other forms of deep tech as well. Recently, we supported a space tech company as well, but majority of our investments are in AI.
Mm-hmm.
But we distinguish between what we call as incremental use cases of AI versus the 10x differentiated use cases of AI. So our bias is to support companies more in the 10x differentiated businesses of AI, and I'm happy to explain that as we go along in the discussion. And thank you for inviting me over here.
Thank you so much for giving in your initial inputs. So maybe I have a slight follow-up question for that, speaking from the ecosystem context. And I would like to understand from you, because you're also in the investment fields and work strongly with other ecosystems as well. So how has India evolved in the AI landscape in relation to the global scenario? Also slightly drawing into the context of the pandemic. If you could share a couple of points on that, that would be great.
Sure. Let me first address one, the quality and the quantity aspect, and then come to the pandemic. So I
Definitely.
launched this fund in 2016. I'm just telling you an anecdote. And we thought that we in our all our best intentions, we thought that AI is the next best thing, and therefore let's go and launch a fund on it. And my mentor, he asked me, go and find one compelling AI company, and went around looking for it a month and a half, could not find any actually. And this was the early part of 2016. And but we still went ahead with the fund, because during that process of 1.5 months of doing that work, we realized that it is not there, but it is coming. You can always see that before the storm, that kind of a different light and a different wind, right? So we could smell that. Now take the scenario of 5 years later, there is hardly any company I meet which is either not implemented AI or not thinking about implementing AI, right? If it is in the digital domain, of course. So things have completely shifted from that to this, right? And obviously there is a lot of noise in the AI space as well, right? Everybody talks about AI, but sometimes there is no depth in it. I am told the .ai websites are very difficult to get these days. Whether you are doing something or not, you put a .ai name in front of the name and it changes the game. So the other part of this in the Indian ecosystem is the quality angle. I think we have lots of AI startups. There is no doubt about that. But what about the quality of what kind of problems they're solving, what kind of solutions they have, what kind of technology they're using? And I think on that one is where I feel a major difference has happened in the last, especially in the last 3 years. I'm seeing more and more what we call in our lingo as AI first startups. AI first startups are startups which fundamentally solve a problem which is very difficult to solve without AI. So we have several examples in our portfolio, like Visa, which is a mental health platform in AI, Niramai, which does breast cancer screening. We have Pixis, which is solving the marketing automation problem, etc., etc. So we have quite a few companies in AI first, and they are all deep technical solutions in AI, which actually solves a very commercial problem, right? So that I think quality is improving. Every day we see better implementations of AI, better use cases. So I think that is where I think we have made a big leap. And the funny thing is that we also talk about one more philosophy in our fund. It's called the 10x difference, right? So if I'm using for whatever technology I'm using, if I'm making an incremental difference to what is out there, then there are all kinds of challenges in adoption from customers, going global, etc. But if you are making a disruptive difference to their life, what we call as a 10x factor, then going global is easy. Folks, I have a very urgent phone call. I'm so sorry, Amrita. I will have to take this. This is from a regulator. So I will just.
Okay, so maybe we go to Johana. Would you jump in for a minute? Thanks.
Sure.
For that, maybe we could quickly do an introduction of yourself. I mean, of course, Manish was really bringing into a great point of discussion, but I think he was also laying a good foundation into the Indian AI ecosystem. But perhaps maybe this would be a good time for you to mention a little bit from the German perspective and also a little bit of an introduction of yours, and then perhaps we catch Manish on that.
Sure, we can we can do that. We can try that.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor to be part of the discussion and also to represent, right, the kind of German side, Merantix side. I'm going to give you a bit of an intro also to what we do, so that you know where we come from. Maybe a little bit about myself first. So I have background in policy and innovation, and I've kind of worked in different parts of the ecosystem. So I've worked in corporations, I've worked in different startups, some of them focusing on AI, some of them not. And I also have experience from the European Commission, where I was working in the Horizon 2020 program in the business accelerator for innovative European businesses. So it kind of gave me, you know, this different angle. And right now I work at Merantix Labs, which is part of the wider Merantix universe. I actually have a very short presentation
Go ahead, yeah.
to show you what we do. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, very good. So just to give you a bit of context, right? Merantix is the first AI venture studio. What that means is that Merantix incubates companies that use AI to solve real-world problems. So what Manish was talking about, the AI first startups, this is where we kind of also come in. We are based in Berlin, and we have a very strong international team with around 20 nationalities. How we work is that we have really strong talent from all over the world, like I said. We have really strong engineering talent, business minds, and also research minds. And we basically take AI research and then apply it to a real world business problem and incubate and develop startups that actually solve this problem. Just to give you an understanding of what types of companies Merantix has incubated so far. One of them is Vara, where I'm not going to say too much because we also have Dipti here talking about Vara later, but they're in the medical imaging sphere. Then we have SIA Search, which is focusing on data management for visual AI. We have Cambrium, which develops proteins to create better materials. We also have Causa, which is focusing on business intelligence and kind of understanding KPIs. And then many more in the making, focusing on financial services, sustainability, and other topics. And then there's Merantix Labs, which is where I spend most of my time. While most of the other ventures are actually product companies, we are a service provider. So we serve as the external machine learning department to our clients, and we work with corporations, we work with different public organizations, public offices, and we basically support our clients in the whole AI journey. So from ideating, from like figuring out if AI actually is the technology that they should use, to actually developing the software and also helping them scale it. So as you can see, we actually have the not so little Merantix universe is really encompassing many industries and many viewpoints, right? We have the products, we have the corporate outlook, we have the research. And this is really at the core of what Merantix believes in. So that's kind of the AI ecosystem, right? And so far we're building it within Germany, in Berlin mostly, but we're also really planning to take this journey a bit further and collaborate on a global scale. And just so you know, because I also would like to mention this later, because I see this as one point where also this connection of India, Germany could really come in play, right? So we're opening this AI campus in next month, actually, no, in April next month, yes. Still February. And it's a place where kind of research, startups and corporates come together and collaborate on AI projects. And this would be kind of open, right, to different actors, not just from Germany, not just startups. And I think it's a really exciting space that's going to kind of help with the fostering and connecting the ecosystem. So very, very excited about this. Yes, that's all from the little short intro.
Perfect, no worries.
Would be happy to answer any questions also later if you have.
Definitely. Maybe I think we will take the questions now. So because it's going in a flow, maybe I will focus on Merantix Labs now, and then of course we can also have Manish's inputs, and then we could draw great parallels, I believe. So I mean, firstly, impressive thought process, and it's also really relevant for us in the session today that you also have a global outlook, and there is also some direct relevance perhaps for the Indian startups, Indian AI-based startups who might be looking at Germany. So with that as a background, maybe one step, if I take backwards, could you tell me what would be the key challenges, especially when you're working with, since you're working with a lot of AI large-scale corporations as well, when you're bringing these solutions to them, what do you see, what are some of the key challenges, and do you also have an example per se in that perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So I think in Germany also there's this other topic, right, of the companies in the society generally being a bit more skeptical towards new technologies, also because of data privacy, etc. Of course, this differs, right, when you work with a AI first startup and a corporation that's been in working for a long time. So there are of course different viewpoints, but we definitely. I think there are quite a lot of initiatives that Germany's actually undertaken recently to also show that this technology, right, is going to be there and it's very important. Some of them, for example, creating the national network of AI hubs or sponsoring professorships. And I think the corporations, they actually also see this, right? So they see this progress and they want to jump in on the train. But there are, of course, many challenges and we see them quite often and they repeat with most of our projects. And I think if I had to boil it down to the main ones, I think one of them would definitely be kind of not aligning the AI initiatives with business strategies, right? So very often companies actually want to use an AI solution. And this could also work for product companies, right? They want to use an AI solution, but there's no clear business case for them at the moment. Maybe they're a few steps behind. So this is definitely one we see. Then there is talent and organizational capabilities. So Germany, there is some lack of especially machine learning, computer science talent. And I also think, for example, this is one way where we can see quite deep collaboration, right, with India, because India has a really strong computer science training. We ourselves have engineers on our team from India, and we get a lot of applications also, a lot of strong applications. And I think another challenge would be, this is kind of a typical one, but data, right? So understanding data capabilities and the needs, because and we talked about big data and also sharing of this, right, between India, Germany. So these would be the top three. There are many, many more, but I could talk about this for hours.
So now going back to the earlier topic that you mentioned, and maybe we could also wrap with this, because this could be a great key takeaway also for the startups that are listening in to us. So how does, what is the exact role Merantix Labs plays as a venture studio, which has a global outlook, especially in supporting German-Indian AI research collaborations, and how can these guys get a piece of that cake?
Definitely. So I think from Merantix, right, I think there are many points where I could see some kind of synergies, collaborations, and also new initiatives, right? One of them that I already mentioned is definitely talent. So we always look for strong founders within the venture studio, and we hire from all over the world, right? So we look for technical founders, but also business founders. So this is definitely one way. I think another way would be the AI campus, because really the idea there is to bring different people together to work on and to advance the AI field further. So I don't know, for example, if Indian companies or Indian startups have offices in Germany or want to start business in Germany, right? There can be definitely some kind of collaboration / collocation there, kind of taking advantage of this ecosystem. That could also lead to, I don't know, research collaborations as part of this ecosystem, or also to kind of help each other develop business in the other region, right? So sharing contacts, sharing business leads, or also talking about data, sharing some kind of data. Of course, there are some challenges to that as well, but I would say that there is a way to also create data partnerships.
Perfect. I think on that note, let's hold on, and it would be wonderful if you do stay on, because at the end of it, we do have direct audience questions. And I also suggest you to keep browsing through the chat section, because I see that there are already some questions coming up, which could be useful for further follow-up. So thanks, Johana. I think I'll now go back to Manish. And yeah, so let me have Manish. Yes. Hi, Manish. So I think you were mentioning the points about the Indian AI landscape. And then now I think I would like to focus a little bit upon the vision you have from Pi Ventures, especially also from an investment perspective, because according to this study I mentioned before, India and Germany are among the top 5 countries in terms of the number of registered AI related startups. But when it comes to, let's say, private investments, they are far behind, and US and China take the lead. So how do you think AI-based startups are differentiated, and how does that affect your funding mechanism? If you could share a few ideas on that, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. And first of all sincere apologies for sort of ducking out in the middle. I had to take that call. It was from a regulator, which I was waiting for many days. Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, right, I think quality and quantity, they're two different things. And as a fund, we are always looking at pie. We do not invest in incremental innovations. We just don't want to do that, even in any technology, right? Forget AI. And since most of our investments are in AI, we tend to have a very strong preference for AI first companies. Difficult.
Is it only with me? I think I
No.
No, I think we lost him.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
But never mind. I think I
Manish, are you back?
back in a
Yes,
moment. Oh yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah,
He's back.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah.
yeah. Please, Manish, please continue. There was a momentary technical glitch, but we are good.
Oh, okay. So yeah, actually, I know why it happened. There's a power surge at my home, so
Yes,
it's
in
my
Bangalore,
Wi-Fi
it's
router.
happening right now. No worries.
Okay. So where did you guys lose me? I was talking about AI first bit, right? I think.
Exactly. Please continue. Yeah.
So what we look for fund perspective is basically disruptive use cases of AI, typically enabled by AI first companies, which make a 10x difference to their lives, right? To their customers' lives. So for example, one of our companies is Visa, which is a mental health platform for AI, where they have an AI trained therapist. You can download Visa, you can chat with it. It understands your emotions and understands the conflicts you're going through. It understands your anxiety, and it tries its best to resolve it. In our knowledge, this is one of the most sophisticated therapy chatbot in the world. Right? And recently, Google also invested in them. They were also the Singapore government has licensed Visa for all Singapore citizens and things like that. So when you are able to solve such a fundamental problem, which is so human, right? A therapy is a human business. It is very difficult for a robot to kind of behave like a human and then solve human issues. So that is what I mean by disruptive use of technology. And this is a problem which is extremely difficult to solve without AI. So it kind of ticks all the boxes, right? Difficult problem, compelling problem to solve. People are hurting across the world for mental health solutions. When you want to, at 2 a.m. in the night, you're feeling the pinch of a deep in depression, you want to talk to someone, what do you do, right? And of course, the whole difference that it brings to the entire world in terms of accessibility to mental health. So this is a template sort of a thing that we try to follow in all our investments. And that's what we look for in investments as well.
Perfect. That's very well put. A perfect example of a use case as well. And I think one of the key factors here is that it's solving a very fundamental need. So I think we are good to go on that. I just have one follow-up question, especially since we are talking about data, and then I'm sure it would be wonderful to also hear from the startups. So since we are talking about data, do you think India, which is a country which has access to a much larger data pool, do you think a country like India can fulfill Germany's need for access to data? And if yes, how useful can it be in reality?
Sure. I have a slightly not so popular view on this, if I may. So, number one, lots of data does not mean anything. Quality data means everything. And when we talk about lots of data, we forget the quality of data in there. And I think that's where all companies in AI are probably hurting across the world. Then comes the relevance of data, right? You get a lot of data, but for your use case, do you have relevant data? I think some of these things are going to get solved in time, but at the same time, we've actually been working on something different, a different strategy altogether, called the sparse data AI, right? So essentially, can we innovate on the algorithms so that you require lesser and lesser data and still be very accurate, right? And I'll give you another example because examples probably give you the best way to illustrate a theoretical concept. We were very early investors in a company called Niramai, which does breast cancer screening using thermal scans, and they were able to detect breast cancer at least a stage earlier than any other technology out there. So when they started, right? And they need their own thermal scans in their own way. How do you get started, right? So they got some volunteers to do thermal scans. They had probably 50 to 100 scans, and then they, using just that 50 to 100 scans, they were able to get their basic product working, so that then they were able to test on a lot more people, right? And slowly with that, the data started coming, and now they have 30,000, 40,000 scans. But that original algorithm, if it was very data hungry, they would have had to wait probably a year before getting out, spend tons and tons of rupees in getting volunteers to give their scans, etc. Right? So there are two. So probably I'm highlighting 2 points here. Let's not get fooled by lots of data. Let's look for where quality data is available, and then make your strategy on that. And second is, let's not ignore the role of optimized algorithms or new techniques that are coming up, right? Which are more optimal in how they need the data, what kind of data they need.
Thank you so much, because I think this is a very key takeaway, I think, from especially what you mentioned, because information overload doesn't mean much, and one needs to have a more optimized and a quality oriented approach towards collecting data. Thank you so much, Manish. I think please stay on. Like I mentioned to Johana, it would be good to have a conversation at the end. We also have some breakout rooms at the final, so we could also have specified chats as well, but that comes later. Now I would like to invite Vijay from Infilect. So if you could come up and unmute yourself, and then Vijay also has a video, so I think my colleague Martin will help with the video, and then once I have a go ahead with you, Vijay, we can start.
Perhaps we can play the video later, if that's possible.
All right, you can begin, of course.
Yeah. So hi all. Thank you, Amrita and Asia Berlin Forum for inviting me here. I heard both Johana and Manish. They talked about disruption, 10x, quality. So hopefully I'll be able to give some perspective from the Indian side. And by the way, we are still infilect.com and not infilect.ai. So Infilect is basically an enterprise B2B SaaS provider, and we are disrupting the world of retail with our platform, which focuses on visual data in this industry. And specifically, I'm going to talk about a product that we call InfiWiz, which basically helps companies like P&G or Kimberly-Clark to track their sales and improve their sales by tracking every shelf in every store every single day, right? So, if you go to a sales manager inside a company like P&G, they will have this most basic question: are my stock keeping units at all displayed as a part of retail shelves? So on my slide, I have a picture which essentially gives you a sense of how the products are displayed across a large number of shelves, right? So if you think about this ecosystem, there are brands like P&G or Kimberly Clark. Then there are stores like Tesco or Walmart, and then there are consumers like us, right? And we essentially buy what we see, and if things are not there on the shelves, then it will result in out of stocks, and it will result in a lot of wastage, right? So typically brands give what are called as planograms to the stores, and they say that, look, this is how I want you to display the products, right? And sometimes they also have their own teams which visit a large number of stores and actually do the job of placing the products on the shelves, right? And if this job is not done well, it will result in out of stock situations, right? And if you sample a few stores, you will see that there is almost 70% gap in terms of the prescribed way in which to place the products and the way they're actually kept on the shelves, right? And because of that, the whole industry loses more than $1 trillion of sales every year, right? So this particular phenomenon is defined by 4 P's. It essentially includes presence, placement, positioning, and pricing of the products on the shelves. And we are talking about collecting this data from millions of stores, right? So, what does the industry do today? So they will basically send a set of auditors to a few thousand stores. It will take a long time to audit a shelf. Sometimes it takes more than 2 hours to actually understand this is SKU A placed at shelf bay 1 at row 2 in sequence 3, right? So it takes a lot of time to do this kind of auditing. Secondly, because it is a very boring and arduous task, and there is almost 50% error in terms of the way you see things on the shelf versus the way you note down, right? And as you can imagine, this particular process doesn't scale across stores, right? And you could only sample perhaps a few thousand stores. So when we looked at this particular problem about 2.5 years back, we realized that the AI which can parse images is mature, and it can provide exceptional ROI to brands like P&G and Kimberly-Clark. We also saw that the new business models like SaaS, right? It can help brands solve this problem at scale, but not incur a lot of cost upfront, right? And then with cloud first in a mobile centric era, we can solve this problem in real time, right? So somebody could just take a picture of the shelves, and within 2 minutes you can tell them that, look, the arrangement is not right, and these are the set of actions you can take. And that particular app can be used by either a brand's person, or it could also be used by a store staff. So we have built this entire system where you can take pictures of the shelves. These pictures flow into our cloud. We also have on-device AI, and then at the end of a visit, so if somebody goes to the stores and takes these pictures, or let's say if store staff takes these pictures, within 2 minutes we tell them that, as I said, arrangement is not right, and you should arrange things in a right way. And by the way, for somebody like a sales manager or a brand manager inside a brand, this is a gold mine of data, because this particular data was not really available with them at scale at any point in time, right? So they can basically run campaigns, they can optimize the placement, they can also run payouts to the stores. So it's a whole platform that is available to brands, right? So as I said, our platform essentially helps a brand like P&G to track every shelf in every store every single day, right? And today we track more than 120,000 stores across the globe. So we are operational across more than 15 countries, including Germany. So we have a tie-up with GfK, and we are also in the process of rolling out our solution for Chibo, which is one of the largest coffee chains in Germany, right? So as a company, as I said, we are focused on B2B SaaS. We have expertise in applying computer vision to solve these problems. We have raised funds, and then we are growing over time. If you have any questions on the things that I just discussed, happy to take any questions, and I think we can play that video now. Yeah, and I'm especially looking forward to hear from Manish to understand if this particular system is disruptive enough or not. So if you could play the video, that would be great. So if you would observe, there is very minute difference between these SKUs. I mean, all you see are baby faces, but there is very minute difference in terms of the size, packaging, and everything. And our AI kind of gives these insights pretty much in real time as soon as the picture is taken inside a store. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them now or later.
Yes. I just have just a couple of follow-up questions, and of course we can also get insights from the other speakers and other audience through the program, through chat, and also in the last 15 minutes. Vijay, I think the first thing that really strikes me is, of course, it's a wonderful innovation, especially for in the retail tech space. But now in the current scenario, when I again talk about the retail tech space, this has also been one of the key sectors which has been highly catalyzed by the pandemic. So how can you say, has the past 1 year influenced your business model and practices? Just a comment on that would be wonderful.
Right. So, I mean, as it is with every business which relies on offline stores, our business was also affected in the middle of April, May, June. But pretty much from July timeframe, because the supply chain was, disrupted, right? So brands, want to know whether my products are actually gotten shipped to the, stores or not, and are those actually, there on the shelves or not. So because of that question, we actually saw increased queries from the brands, and our existing customers actually doubled or tripled the way in which they deployed our product, right? And we in fact raised funds around September timeframe last year. So that was basically an evidence that the problem actually became a pinching problem, and brands also somewhere understood that if you don't adopt this kind of solution, then they would lag behind, right? So I would say it had a pretty positive impact on us in terms of our business.
That's a very optimistic and a reassuring thing to hear. Thanks so much. One follow-up question, especially since we're talking about data, and also to correlate on the point which Manish mentioned about the fact that just having data is not everything, and having quality-oriented specific data is more important. So, and from what I understood from your presentation as well, is that data generation, analytics, and insights generated by AI lead your core innovation, right? So do you see a relevance, since you already have cross-border partnerships with German clients? So how do you see is the relevance in establishing these cross-border partnerships, especially in a data-centric way? Because it also affects interdisciplinary industries such as logistics, supply chain, vendor management, and what do you need from initiatives such as Asia Berlin to support you more in this process?
Right. So, I mean, if you see for us, data is absolutely the key. I mean, so if we go from, let's say, India to Germany, right? PNG as a company may exist in India as well as in Germany, but the kind of SKUs that will be there in India versus in Germany, those will be different, right? So the packaging, the language, everything will be different. So if we have to instantiate or boot up our product, it is absolutely key that we at least collect a small set of data from each of the markets, and that's the reason we have partnerships with companies like GfK, where we get that early footprint in terms of understanding the market, understanding data, understanding the way products are packaged, the way they are kept on the shelves. So I would say cross-border partnerships are absolutely important, especially for us as a company to scale and then solve problems. Because in the end, if you see, it's a win-win for both the countries or both the companies, right? That we are solving a common problem where we get rid of out of stocks on the shelves, which eventually benefits everybody, right?
Perfect. I think that was a good perspective from the retail sector. And from the last point that you mentioned, you also mentioned that you need to do your homework as thoroughly as possible and get the localized insights as much as possible. On that note, I will move on to the next startup. Vara, Dipti is here,
Thank you
and
very much.
it has a health tech startup. So thanks so much, Vijay. So please hold on. We'll get back to you in the final stage. So yeah, so now let me move on to Deepti. Are you in?
Yes,
Yes,
I am. Hi.
perfect. Yes. Hi, Deepti. Hope you're good. So I think maybe you could first begin with your presentation a little bit about yourself, and then of course we follow the pattern of taking the questions in the next step.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you, Amrita. And thanks to all the speakers so far and for also organizing this whole thing and orchestrating it. Yeah, let me get started with sharing my screen. Just a second. Yes, so you should be able to see my screen now, yeah? Perfect.
Yes, all good.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Dipti, and today I'll be talking to you about Vara. I represent Vara, I'm the product design lead there. So basically what I do is I work at the intersection of ML and user experience, and I try to use AI as a design material and see how best that can be applied into this particular use case, which is basically breast cancer screening, right? So we are a breast cancer screening platform powered by AI. So before I get started, I'll just briefly take you through the agenda. So I will introduce you to the breast cancer screening program, specifically here in Germany, because that's where we're operating. Then where does Vara come in? So Vara's value proposition. Then we'll do a short product demo. And then we'll talk about basically the highlight of the day, data, and Vara's process for data collection, analysis, and insights. And then in the end, a little bit about the German-Indian collaboration on data, right? So let's get started. So yeah, I mean, I think some of you already may be aware of this, but breast cancer is one of the most common cancers, and it is the most common cancer among women, right? So 1 out of 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their entire lives. So that's a pretty large number. And the good thing is that screening programs could help with early detections and basically that could reduce mortality by up to 25%. So that's where we come in, right? Like there are specialized breast radiologists who look for subtle signs of cancer in these mammograms. These are the images scanned basically from the women who go into the screening centers. And that's why basically 300 plus million mammograms were conducted on all of last year only. And that presents a pretty large workload for human expertise to match. And this is going to only increase in time as other countries adopt such screening programs as well. And that's why health systems are now looking at ML technologies to address this challenge, especially in context to the resource constraints. And yeah, today that's why we built a machine learning powered platform so that radiologists can focus on the important cases, the suspicious cases, while we take care of the negatives. So basically the repetitive work that may not be that important for them to look at so that they can focus on the cancerous ones. So this is a brief look at what Vara's algorithm looks like. We call it the triage system, where 50% of the cases are fully automated, fully pre-filled by the algorithm, where the radiologist just has to sign and send. And 50% are potentially suspicious cases, where the human expert basically comes in. These are partially pre-filled, but the radiologist has to still sign and send everything. So here I would like to take a brief pause and show you our product in action. So just give me a second. Okay. So before I show you the actual product, I would like to show you what the workstation of a radiologist looks like. So here on the left, you can see the reporting screen. And then there are 2 other screens where the radiologist looks at the images. So essentially, it's a 3-screen workstation And I'm going to have to demo this on my small laptop screen, so it's not going to do it full justice, but I hope that you get a sense of what the product looks like. So imagine if you were the radiologist right now, this would be your work list, right? And you would be a very hardworking radiologist because usually the cases are hundreds long, and you've already gone through quite a few and you only have 6 left. So well done. So here you would go into the first case, which is basically the normal one. Here, this is the most important column that we have to look at, right? This is where the classification algorithm shows you the normals. So there are 2 normals, and the rest of them are blank because they are potentially suspicious cases. And you can also choose to filter your cases by going into normal or potentially suspicious tabs, or you can just go into your work list normally. So let's look at that. The first patient. Here, this is what a report looks like. On the left, you can see the patient information, the clinical information, and then any prior data that you may have collected in the system. And this is what the report looks like. So as you can see, this is already pre-filled. And there's a normal tag, which is basically the algorithm in action. And here, this is what the other 2 screens would have. I promise you, this is not as cluttered as it looks in actual workstation. And yeah, just to give you a brief, I'll show you briefly what I would do as a radiologist. We'll just go through the images, look for signs of cancer. You don't find any, looks like a normal breast. So you basically click save and the report is sent. Now, this is a potentially suspicious case. Basically, as you can see, there's no normal here. There's no, the assessment has not been pre-filled. So I go through the cases and I basically don't find anything. So I press save. And then it says that I have to press normal at least. So press save now. And then it alerts me about something suspicious that it may have found. So this is the second part of the algorithm where this is called the safety net. So Vara found something suspicious and it's alerted me if I miss something. So here it found something suspicious. So I click the ROI and what do you have it? It's basically cancer, right? So here I have the opportunity to report this and it would be saved and then the report would go into biopsy and further investigation would be conducted. So yeah, this is basically a brief look at our product. There's a multitude of features that I can cover, but we don't have enough time for that. So heading back into the presentation, yeah. Then talking about the topic of the day, data. So what do we do currently? How do we handle it? How do we handle the analysis and the insights, right? So how it currently works is we partner with different clinics and screening units around Germany, and in return, we sort of give them access to our large data pool. And here, basically, it's a win-win situation. Both parties benefit from such a collaboration, right? Then the second part is the safety and quality check. So this is very important, especially working within healthcare. So we diligently perform safety and quality checks regularly in regard to data anonymization and the correctness of the data that we've collected. Then there's annotations. So we have a very specialized annotation task force here in Europe. These are a group of radiologists who constantly look at the data and they annotate this data based on the ground truth, which is the biopsy results. And the generalization part, this is very important to mention as well, that we always have to ensure that the data, the algorithm generalizes on the data that's provided, right? And if it doesn't, then what are the measures that we can take, such as maybe providing more data to the algorithm and adjusting the model parameters to fit that and such that the algorithm then generalizes on the particular data. So having said that, no, there's one more part basically. So user insight, this is very important to mention as well. So what we do with the data collection is we also provide live insights to our users based on their performance, and they also have the ability to compare themselves to the algorithm, and this provides for a learning experience on both ends, how they can improve their performance, how we can improve our performance as the algorithm. So yeah, this is also very important. Yeah, then moving on to the to a potential German-Indian collaboration for data. What would that look like, and what could be the benefits on both sides, right? On Vara's side and on the Indian side as well. So I would start with the benefits for Vara. Yeah, so one of the things that would definitely be important here would be if we validate our algorithm with Indian data set, then that would definitely increase the model's robustness. Even within India, there's a potential for very diverse data sets. So that's really important for us. Then the scientific knowledge transfer aspect of things. So getting to understand the Indian population and the rate of breast cancer within the country, and then comparing that to our current findings would probably result in new insights for us. Collaborations for annotations, right? So as I mentioned earlier, we have an annotation task force here in Europe. So such a collaboration would also take place in India, where we have Indian radiologists who annotate the Indian data set. So this would lead to more resource availability for us. And the key aspect for working within India would be building trust with the population. So if we validate our algorithm on an Indian data set, that would definitely help us creating strong bonds and creating trust between us and the Indian population. Yeah. And what would be the possible benefits for India in such a case? It would grant them access to latest AI technology. So our workflow and algorithm has been tried and tested in Germany and offers a safe step in adopting such a new technology. Knowledge transfer, so it would work both ways. As we would gain scientific knowledge transfer from India, India would also gain something from understanding what the German screening system looks like, as it's a model example of how lives can be saved with early detection, and such a system can be adopted by India as well. And also creating more jobs. I think Johana also mentioned this. Basically, we would require annotation support from Indian physicians, that is the annotation task force bit, but also potential technological collaboration, right? That would also increase jobs, I think so. Yeah, these are some potential benefits that could arise from such a collaboration between these two countries, but of course, there's many more and to be anticipated when something like this happens. So I hope that I was able to cover at least briefly that aspect of it and to explain to you what our AI use case is. And yeah, thank you. So I would take questions now.
Yes, thanks so much, Dipti. Of course, I do have a couple of questions, but maybe I will first begin with the questions that are here. I mean, one question is here from Manish. For you is, whenever appropriate, what is the exact specificity and the sensitivity of your innovation? We take one question on that, and then maybe the others we take at the end, and we move on to other questions.
Okay, so on sensitivity, I think we are at 99% and specificity 95%, but it depends on the algorithm. So with the triage system, it's slightly different, and with the safety net, it's slightly different. And we also actually have something called the threshold setting, which is basically where we collaborate with each screening unit particularly to understand their radiologist sensitivity and specificity, and then we adjust the model parameters to fit that. So we customize for each screening unit.
Great. So one question, backup question I have. Firstly, great presentation. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. Thank you for covering all the concepts which were the objectives of the day today. So you did definitely mention about the potential benefits of collaboration with India, and what would be the potential interest areas, especially in the context of accessing larger data pools for your startup specifically within this sector?
So currently we are looking at only 2D mammography. So that is the modality that we focus on within Germany, because German screening programs look at that. But if a potential collaboration with India for a larger data pool would happen, then the technology that we could harness, the technological innovations that we could harness from India, such as like explorations into other modalities, would be very interesting to us, such as DBT, which is tomosynthesis, which is 3D mammography, MRI, and so on. So that would be very interesting to explore.
Great. And one final question for you. So when you are seeking, these international data or cross-border data collaborations, do you run into the risk of this data being invalid or out of context, because it's not the same, might not be localized enough?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we hope that this would not be the case, because we do actually gather retrospective data directly at the radiology sites where the algorithm will later be deployed. So hopefully that would match the context of the usage as well. And the other thing is we do live data tracking, so that we constantly reassess and track the data that we are gathering. So that should mitigate that risk, hopefully.
Okay, thanks so much, Dipti. I'm sure there are so many more coming up, but I would request you to please hold on and also go through the chat and interact as much. And I think now it's time for Tivadar and his startup Telesto.ai. Thanks so much. We'll catch you in a bit. So Tivadar, if you could unmute yourself, and then it would be wonderful to hear from you as well.
Hey, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Awesome.
hear you. We can see you, and maybe like everyone else, maybe it would be best if you could start off with your presentation, and then of course we take the questions at the end.
Awesome. So hi everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity. So we are Telesto.ai, and our mission is nothing less than to democratize artificial intelligence. And our way of doing this is through an open, competitive marketplace. So as Amrita mentioned, my name is Tivadar, and I'm one of the co-founders of Telesto.ai. And in this presentation, I will guide you through our platform concept that aims to democratize AI on a global scale. So first, let's talk about the AI ecosystem, and most importantly, the problems we see in the AI ecosystem. So if you follow the advances in the past few years in artificial intelligence, then you can see that the available tools to build AI algorithms have essentially exploded, both in quality and quantity. So at this moment, even talented high school students can create state-of-the-art solutions at home, which is amazing. However, despite this, there are still some major problems. And first problem we see is that for companies without dedicated AI teams, machine learning engineers, it is still extremely hard and expensive to deliver a customized AI solution. So the bar of entry is high at the moment. This is one of the major problems. Second problem is that even if you have an AI team with dedicated machine learning engineers, most solutions actually never make it into production. So there is a big disconnect between building a solution and deploying this solution into production and making like a reliable machine learning pipeline. And this is like 80% of the work. And just like a quick tangent here, Amrita, you mentioned in the beginning that we should think about potential AI innovations. And in my opinion, the biggest AI innovation wouldn't be solving the next great problem. The most important innovation would be to enable to build AI solutions and deploy them to production much faster. So third problem, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, please continue, please continue.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So despite the technological advances, like most developers want to work in AI, right? If you are a developer and you work in this area, you know that you want to build AI solutions. So it is very difficult to connect developers to the source of the problems. And most companies that could use AI solutions does not necessarily have job listings for data scientists or machine learning engineers. So essentially, most opportunities for developers remain hidden, and this is not beneficial. So to summarize, on one hand, like custom AI solutions can cost hundreds of thousands of euros. On the other hand, you have like millions of talented developers who want to work on your AI problem. So do you see the problem here? So we have a huge demand and a huge supply, but the issue is that they don't know about each other. So what we are building is a platform that connects companies with developers through an online competitive marketplace. And this will enable the clients to have basically state-of-the-art solutions. And it will also enable the developers to focus on building these solutions. So just a quick summary about how our solution works. So we believe that through open challenges, we essentially enable collaboration between enterprises and developers. And essentially, we organize AI challenges for our clients, and talented developers make innovative solutions. We rank these solutions and reward the best ones. So if you are a developer and you basically at the top of the leaderboard, you will get paid weekly. So these solutions, which are provided by the developers, are automatically shipped to production. So no need to do anything from the client side, no technical difficulties. We directly plug this into production and they are ready to use. And there are a bunch of use cases for this. So for instance, like these short and sweet hackathons, but also we can organize long-term competitions for building much higher magnitude algorithms. So if you are a company, why would you use our platform? So there are several benefits, just to highlight 3 of them. Crowdsourcing significantly cuts the time required to deliver a working solution. Because if you think about it, instead of having a small team, like, I don't know, 10 or even 50 machine learning engineers working on your problem, you will have potentially thousands of machine learning engineers working on your problem. And since they are all competing to be the best, to provide the best solution, you also guarantee that that solution will be excellent. So this model is proven to be working. And third, we also take care of every technical detail regarding the productionization of this model. So if you are the client, you don't have to worry about deploying a solution to the cloud or anything, because we do this for you automatically. And if you are a developer, then you have also plenty of reasons to use a platform. First of all, you earn money, but you also improve your skills. So this is like a great way to do both. And essentially, as a machine learning engineer myself, I know that I want to focus on building and creating, and not the technical issues that arise during building AI pipelines. So we enable our creators to do this. And essentially, here is our big brain team. So most of us are coming from scientific research, and in our research experience, we see that even at the cutting edge of research, like most AI solutions are expensive and difficult to build. So no one builds them. But there are a bunch of problems out there that need solutions. And we spent months figuring out the solution to this problem. And we are confident that our platform can actually bring collaboration between companies and developers to the next level. So if you are interested, we would love to have a chat with you anytime. And thanks for the opportunity to talk. Basically, that was it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tivadar. I mean, that's a great presentation. And of course, I think to act as a midpoint between the supply and demand of AI is a really cool spot to be. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for that. So especially since you are this marketplace that democratizes AI solutions, could your solution also be relevant to India? And if yes, what would be the kind of benefits you can offer the Indian AI ecosystem? If you could share a few thoughts on that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we enable collaboration on a global scale. And India is especially known for its excellent computer science education. So there are a bunch of talent there that can participate in the collaboration. But on the other hand, also many potential industrial partners who can facilitate collaboration between developers. So I think our marketplace basically enables collaboration between two parties.
Okay. Another question I have for you is, since again you work with this competitive crowdsourcing AI platform, and it also supports open source software, especially since we're talking about data, I think the regulatory aspect really comes into play. So to what extent are these companies open to data sharing, and how have the data regulation policies, could be GDPR or the other policies, etc., how have they influenced your business also in a cross-border sense?
So most companies are actually surprisingly open to data sharing. It wasn't like this like a few years ago, but there has been many good precedents. Like for instance, Uber open sources some of their data, like Airbnb open sources some of their data. So it's definitely the things are going this way. So you open source a small subset of your data that can be used to basically provide challenges for developers. From the regulatory perspective, especially like GDPR wise, so if you want to open source your data, you have to take care that no personal information could be found in this data, and this can be solved with anonymization procedures, for instance. So in general, like this is not really a problem for us, because we can process the data such that it won't contain any personal information. If the problem even contains personal information at all, for instance, if you want to build computer vision solutions for, I don't know, classifying cracks in automobile windshields in like a manufacturing scenario, you don't even have to worry about GDPR, because you only have is like images of windshields on a manufacturing line.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think now let's take all the group questions before the speakers get ready. I mean, we are almost at the end of the session now, and I really thank all the speakers for their fantastic insights, and I'm sure the audience agrees with me. And of course, there are also quite a few questions that have come up. And so one of the many takeaways for me is definitely there is a potential for AI data collaboration, especially between the countries of Germany and India, not just in a theoretical sense, but also in a practical manner, of course, also owing to certain concepts about data localization and the real-time quality of data and so on. So maybe now I think as the questions are coming up, I also see that there are quite a few interdisciplinary topics with which can act as future guidelines for this topic. It could be about data colonization, where one resorts to over-harvesting an ecosystem which is booming with data. I mean, this may sound a little too familiar from the Indian context. There are also various other bilateral regulatory policies which heavily influence AI collaborations. And of course, there's also the ethical aspect of storing and sharing data, etc. And one can definitely do multiple sector-specific AI deep dives. So the topic really has many, many folds. So I think now I will begin with the question. So there's one question for Vijay that I see here. I mean, right at the quite latestly is, hi Vijay, can you help us with some use cases on a high level where your technology is usable?
Right. Thank you for the question, Siddharth. So we work across the industry. We work with retail brands such as Procter and Gamble. We work with store operators like Lowe's or Kmart, and primarily we solve four problems. One is for somebody like P&G, giving them insights on whether their products are in stock, present on the shelves or not. right? And that we do by just picking a picture and then giving them understanding that this particular SKU was present or absent. We also work with customer like Lowe's or Kmart, where we help them understand if there is shrinkage at the checkout counters. Sometimes some customers just forget to scan a few items. So statistics say that per checkout counter, almost 4 to 6 items are not scanned every single day. So that amounts to almost $80 to $100 of shrinkage per day. So we have a system where we install a camera at the top, and then we track the entire movement of the products as well as the people, which helps the store staff get insights in terms of if if an SKU is scanned or not, and that we do it pretty much in real time. And we also work with both brands as well as with stores to help them design their marketing creatives in optimized way. So for example, if you design an ad video which is bad in the sense which is not really capturing attention of people, right? Then it's going to be a loss of investment in putting a campaign where that video is seen by a lot of people, right? So we also help our customers to design videos which are most effective for their customers. So these are a few use cases across which we work in the industry. I hope that answers the question. You're on mute now. Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks so much, Vijay. So I think I have one question. I mean, I have multiple questions for Dipti, but maybe I think we take one and then come back later. So Dipti, what is your current business model and how do you overcome societal mindset in using AI for automated screening? Dipti, you're mute. Please unmute. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you for the question. So our current business model is basically that we apply ML technology in breast cancer screening programs particularly. And we looked at other radiology use cases, but we aim to basically stick to breast cancer screening at the moment. And this is Germany specific, and hopefully we expand into other European countries within the next few months. Having said that, yeah, the point about the mindset is a good one. So there are questions about whether AI can basically be put in this use case safely, right? Like how do you prevent things like the automation bias where a radiologist is very dependent, so dependent on the algorithm that they stop to look at images, and basically that can cause patient harm in the long run. So how do you prevent such things? So we actively take measures to educate our users against that, and try to tell them that this pre-filling of the information is something that they constantly need to look at, and we always give the control to the user in the end. So we don't automate fully ever. We always give the last call to the user. So that's something we're constantly educating radiologists about. And yeah, that's one way to basically change their mindset about AI.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think now there's one question for Tivadar. What would be your scale-up plan? It's from Jubin.
Okay, thanks for the question. So actually, first we are focusing on industry, especially manufacturing industry, in terms of potential like crowdsourcing challenges. After that, we are going to basically extend into education, because we realize that this platform we are building is an excellent education platform also, because competitions are also very natural in a classroom sense. And in the long term, this is what is going to essentially fuel or growth, because from the classroom competition application, we are going to have like potentially millions of students flowing into this collaboration platform, which will actually open us the way to move on to even bigger and bigger markets. And so I hope that in the next 5 years, we will be the biggest AI crowdsourcing platform. I hope I answered your question.
Definitely, and wish you all the best for that. So one question perhaps to Manish, I think this would be relevant. Maybe Johana, you also want to pitch in, feel free. So to what extent or in which use case verticals do you believe Indian data is generalizable for training or running German AI applications? What are the criteria for deciding when, as a German AI firm, it would make sense to look at the Indian AI data sphere?
Yeah.
It's a pretty loaded question.
I know. I think one way to think about this is what are the things that are similar in terms of workflows. So if I think about mental health, data could be very similar. If I think about enterprise use cases of workflows, etc., data could be very similar. If I think about logistics data in terms of routing, etc., data could be different, but at some level, the data could also be similar in terms of how the engine works. Whereas if I think about credit loans in a sector, data may not be useful, right? So we have to think through in terms of which workflows and which behaviors are similar to India in Germany, and then see which of those use cases will probably have different data needs or similar data needs.
Thank you so much. Johana, do you also want to add something here?
I think I agree with that, with what Manish said. Right, you always have to look at the context of the data and make sure that the data also is not biased. And then when you transport data from one side of the world to another, there is a possibility, right, that it wouldn't work. So I definitely agree with that. I think also another issue is then the regulation, which is like a topic for a whole new session, I would say, with actually exchanging data. But yeah. Not much else to add.
Perfect. So thank you so much. I think we are also right on time now. And I just want to ask the speakers if you would like to add, if you have any final point to share, or if you have any feedback to share with your other speakers, or but after this, we could also, connect with each other. And if any of the audience also wants to connect with either of the speakers, please feel free to shoot me an email. I will leave my email in the chat box, and that would help the collaboration to keep kicking on. And with that note, I would just give the floor to the speakers one last time if they want to add something, and then we would close for the day.
Thank you so much for having me here. Nothing to add, just a request that if you're working on really a disruptive use case of AI and reimagining the future, would love to hear from you. I'm at manish@pyventures.in. Not just for investment, but we are also putting together a blog, etc., where I want to highlight the disruptive use cases. So it will be interesting would love to feature some of you over there. Thank you.
And I would maybe add to that quickly, just if you are planning, or if you are working in Germany or Europe already, then also get in touch. We can see if there's a way to collaborate on the campus or off the AI campus. So definitely also get in touch. I shared my LinkedIn here and also the links to our LinkedIn page. So you can just get in touch with me there. Would be happy to chat later.
Perfect. So people are also exchanging emails and so on in the chat box. So there are certain breakout rooms later. So the speakers, if you have time, you could join the breakout rooms for further networking, or please see what is the most suitable for you. But otherwise, we would be wrapping the session for today. And like I said, if there are any questions, please feel free to write to me and to any of my other colleagues as well, who put in in their emails. Otherwise, thank you so much. And I wish you all a very happy rest of the day and the next week as well. Thank you so much.